The words stopped him cold. 3 syllables. Soft. Measured. But they cut deeper than any cheer or criticism he'd heard on a football field. Patrick Mahomes turned his head slowly, not expecting anyone to recognize him here. He had deliberately chosen this quiet street in south-central Los Angeles to avoid cameras, fans, and noise. But the girl who stood near the metal trash bin wasn't holding a phone. She wasn't asking for a selfie. She wasn't even looking up at him for the first few seconds. She just stood there, hugging a dirty backpack to her chest, and repeated it, this time with eyes meeting his. "I'm hungry." Patrick blinked. The girl looked about 8, maybe 9. Her braids were undone at the ends, and her jeans had a tear that had been hand-stitched with red thread. She wore a jacket too thin for the breeze that swept the block. But it was the way she said it, without desperation, without begging, just a quiet fact that made it impossible to ignore. He knelt slightly, bringing himself closer to her height. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated. "Zoe." "Are you alone, Zoe?" Another pause, then a shrug. Sometimes he didn't know what that meant, but it was enough. He motioned toward the small diner behind them. "Come on, let's get something to eat." She looked at him, then the diner, then back at him. Her face stayed blank. No excitement, no relief. Only after a few steps did she follow him, walking, with small, hesitant strides, like someone used to being turned away. Inside the diner, the warmth hit them first. Then the smell. Fried eggs, bacon, grease on the griddle. Zoe paused at the entrance, taking it in, eyes scanning everything. The meat waitress behind the counter gave Patrick a second look, eyes widening just a bit, but she didn't say anything. He appreciated that. They sat at a booth. Zoe didn't touch the menu. "Get whatever you want," he said, handing it to her. "It's on me." She stared at the laminated pages for a moment, then pushed it aside. "Pancakes," he smiled. "Pancakes, it is." He ordered 2 stacks, extra butter, syrup, and a chocolate milk. For himself, just a black coffee. As they waited, he studied her face. Sharp jawline, wide eyes, but under her small frame was the weight of something bigger than a child should carry. He'd seen that look before, in locker rooms, on streets, sometimes even in the mirror. "You from around here?" he asked. Zoe didn't answer. "You go to school?" She nodded, then stopped. "I used to." Something about that answer made his throat tighten. "Where's your family?" They come and go. The pancakes arrived, and she dug in. No hesitation. Now. No manners either. But he didn't care. She wasn't eating to impress anyone. She was eating because she needed it. She ate like someone who didn't know when the next meal was coming. He waited until her plate was nearly empty before speaking again. "I'm Patrick," he said, unsure whether she knew him. "I know," she mumbled through a bite. He raised an eyebrow. "You do?" She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "You're on TV. Mama used to yell at the screen when you threw the ball too far." That made him chuckle. "Your mom a big football fan?" She was. That word again. Was. Past tense. What happened to her? Zoe didn't look up. She pushed a piece of pancake around her plate and shrugged again. "I don't know. She left one day and didn't come back. That was before the shelter closed." Patrick leaned back, heart sinking. "Where are you sleeping now?" "In a place," she said vaguely. "What kind of place?" She stared out the window. "Empty one." Silence filled the booth. He was used to solving problems fast, memorizing plays, adapting on the fly, delivering under pressure. But this wasn't something he could fix with a perfect throw. And yet, he couldn't walk away. "Zoe," he said slowly, "do you trust me?" She looked at him. Finally, really looked at him, and for the first time since they met, her face showed. Something that wasn't guarded, just a flicker of it. Doubt, curiosity, maybe even hope. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know you." He nodded. "That's fair." He pulled out his phone and opened a note app, scribbling down the name of a woman he knew. Rachel, a social worker in the city who'd helped his foundation before. He showed it to her. "I want you to meet someone. Not now, not today. Only if you want to. But she helps kids like you." "For real?" Zoe looked at the name. Her fingers traced the screen lightly. She didn't speak. Patrick stood and dropped a bill on the table, far more than needed. Then he crouched beside her again. "I'm going to be around for a few days. If I come back here tomorrow, will you be here?" "I don't know," she said again. He looked her in the eye. "I hope you are." As he stepped outside, he realized something strange. His heart was pounding. The Bercourt kind of pounding he only felt before something big. But this wasn't a game. This was something else. And somehow, he knew he'd be back, even if she wasn't. Patrick returned the next morning, earlier than before. Same street, same diner, same booth. But Zoe wasn't there. He ordered a coffee and waited, eyes drifting toward the window every few seconds. Cars passed. People moved along the sidewalk. The waitress brought his cup and gave him a quiet look that said, "You're not here for breakfast." He gave a slight nod. She left him alone. Minutes stretched. After almost an hour, he stood up. Something tugged at his chest, an unfamiliar frustration that came with caring about something he couldn't control. He stepped out into the street and walked toward the alley behind the diner. Trash bins, cardboard, graffiti. Silence. Then, movement. A rustle behind one of the large blue dumpsters. Patrick took a step closer. "Zoe?" No response. He waited. Then the girl emerged slowly, hoodie up, holding her backpack tight to her chest. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. "You came back," she said quietly. "You didn't think I would?" "I didn't know." He gave a short smile. "You hungry?" She hesitated, then nodded once. They went back to the diner. Same booth. Same pancakes. This time, Zoe ate slower. She glanced around more. Her shoulders didn't sit so high. Patrick watched her carefully, letting the silence stretch until she broke it. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I know. People give me food sometimes. Then they go." He leaned forward. "I'm not people." Zoe's eyes narrowed. "So what are you?" He didn't have a rehearsed answer. "I'm someone who thinks a kid shouldn't have to survive like this." She studied him as if testing for lies. "What do you want?" That was the moment Patrick realized how many times she'd probably asked that same question. "What do you want from me?" To adults who offered smiles, but took something back. The idea made his jaw tighten. "I want to help you," he said. "That's it." Zoe didn't nod, but she didn't walk out either. Patrick pulled out his phone again and showed her the contact he'd saved yesterday. "Her name's Rachel. She helps kids who don't have safe places. She's smart, tough, and she's not part of the system." Zoe looked at the name, then at him. "The system doesn't care. He nodded. I know. That's why I trust Rachel more than the system. Zoe finished her food in silence. Then she stood. I want to show you something, she said. Patrick followed her out, past the alley, down 2 blocks, through a fence with a gap in the bottom. They entered a small abandoned apartment complex. The sign out front was broken. Inside, dust covered everything. The hallway smelled like damp concrete. A door on the 2nd floor was wedged open with a brick. Inside that room were 3 sleeping bags, some water bottles, a flashlight, and 2 other kids. 1 boy, 1 girl, both younger than Zoe. This is the place, she said. You asked. The other kids looked terrified when they saw Patrick, but Zoe raised a hand. He's cool. Patrick crouched to their level. Hey, they didn't respond, just watched him with eyes that had seen more than they should. Zoe looked back at him. We take care of each other, sometimes, but there's no food. And when it gets cold, her voice drifted. Patrick stood slowly, heart heavy. He looked around. Bare walls. No heat. No protection. You've been staying here how long? Since the shelter closed. 4 weeks. And no one knows? She gave a bitter smile. No one asks. Patrick stepped out into the hallway and pulled out his phone. He called Rachel. I need you, he said. 3 kids, no paperwork, no adults, 1 building away from falling apart. Rachel didn't ask questions. Send me the address. Patrick hung up, then turned back to Zoe. She's coming, in a few hours. You don't have to talk to her if you don't want. But she's the real deal. Zoe sat down near the wall and hugged her knees. What? If we go and they split us up? They won't. Not if I stay involved. She looked up. Why are you doing this? Patrick thought for a long second before answering. Because I see you. That made something flicker behind her eyes. Not trust yet, but maybe the start of it. He stayed with them for 2 more hours, told stories, joked, got names, Ty and Nia. When Rachel arrived, she didn't wear a badge. No clipboard, just jeans and a soft voice. She spoke to the kids like they mattered. Zoe stayed quiet. Watched. Rachel gave her space. Patrick walked her out after. They're scared, he said. They have every reason to be, she replied. You can keep them together? Rachel nodded. I'll fight for it. He paused before leaving. I'll pay. Whatever it takes. Rachel shook her head. That's not the hard part. He watched her drive away with the kids. Zoe looked out the window once. Their eyes met. She didn't wave, but she didn't look away either. Patrick had spent the past 24 hours thinking of little else. He had kept busy, showing up at meetings, fulfilling media obligations, smiling when people asked for autographs. But behind every handshake and every photo, his mind drifted. Back to that abandoned building, to Zoe's eyes, and to the kids who barely flinched when a stranger walked into their shelter. That night, he called Rachel. How are they? She answered immediately. Settling, slowly. They haven't said much. Zoe? She hasn't spoken to anyone since the ride, but she hasn't tried to run either. Patrick closed his eyes. That's something, Rachel continued, her voice calm and steady. She's got layers, Patrick, not just trauma, intelligence, defiance, caution. But there's trust there, somewhere. I can feel it. I want to see her. Rachel hesitated. Might be too soon. I don't want her thinking I forgot. I'll talk to her, Rachel said. No promises. He hung up and stared at the ceiling. He'd been in high-pressure moments before, championships, endorsements, spotlights. But this was different. This was personal, and personal didn't come with a playbook. The next morning, his phone rang. Rachel, she wants to talk to you. Just you. No press. No photos. He didn't even wait to change clothes. He grabbed his keys and drove. The shelter Rachel had placed them in was small, tucked between a church and a run-down pharmacy. Nothing glamorous, but it had walls, heat, a locked front door. Patrick knocked softly. Zoe met him in the common room. She was sitting on a worn-out couch, legs crossed, backpack beside her. The room smelled like bleach and cheap coffee. There were puzzles on a side table. A cartoon played on a low-volume television in the corner. "You came," she said, almost, like a challenge. "I said I would." She looked at him. "Most people say stuff. I try to mean it." They sat in silence for a moment. Zoe picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. "Rachel said you want to help." "I do." "Why?" Patrick didn't answer right away. He thought back, years ago. His mom working double shifts, him and his brother eating cereal for dinner, nights when the lights got cut off, times he told friends everything was fine when it wasn't. "Because someone helped me once, and because someone didn't help my cousin. He ended up locked up, never got out. We were the same age, same school, different paths." Zoe stared at the floor. "I thought you were just famous." "I am. But I'm also someone who remembers what it's like to be scared and small." She looked up at him now. Really looked. "Do you think I'm broken?" "No." She leaned back. "People say I act grown. I don't act like a kid." "That's not your fault. You had to survive." "I'm tired of surviving." Those words punched the air out of his lungs. Patrick leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Then let's figure out how you start living." Zoe stayed quiet, but her hands stopped fidgeting. Patrick reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This is my number. Not an assistant. Not a PR person. Me. If something feels wrong, if you need anything, you call." She took the paper, but didn't open it. "You think this ends well?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But it doesn't have to end badly." A door creaked open behind them. Ty peeked in, holding a juice box. Zoe called to him. "It's okay." The boy walked over slowly, then climbed onto the couch beside her. He didn't say anything, just leaned into her side. Patrick watched that small moment of comfort and felt something shift inside him. Zoe looked at Ty, then back at Patrick. "They'll listen to you. Grown-ups. Sometimes. Then talk." "About what?" "About us." Patrick nodded. "I will." "Promise?" He looked her in the eye. "Promise." Zoe stood, slung her backpack over one shoulder, and nodded toward the door. "I need some air." They stepped outside together. The parking lot was cracked. A breeze tugged at Zoe's sleeves. Patrick leaned against the railing. "You don't have to be strong all the time." Zoe's voice came out small. "If I stop being strong, who protects them?" "You're a kid." "I don't feel like one." Patrick exhaled. "Maybe we change that." She didn't respond. Just watched a car pass, then another. "You're going to school again," he said softly. "Rachel said that. I'll help with supplies. Uniforms. Whatever you need." Zoe didn't argue, but she didn't thank him either. After a long pause, she asked, "Will you come back?" "Yes." "When?" "Soon." She looked up. "Not soon. Say when." He smiled. "Tuesday." Zoe nodded. "Okay." They stood in silence again, but this one felt different. Lighter. Then she pulled the folded paper from her pocket and held it up. "I'm not going to call you." "That's okay, but I'll keep it, just in case." Patrick smiled. That night, he wrote a long post for his foundation. No names, no photos, just a message. Sometimes the biggest victories don't come with trophies. They come with trust. If we want change, we start by showing up. No cameras, no headlines, just hearts open. He didn't care how many people liked it. He cared that one girl might read it someday and know it was about her. Tuesday arrived with no fanfare, no reporters, no press conference, just a man parking his truck 2 blocks from the shelter because he didn't want to draw attention. Patrick Mahomes walked in wearing a hoodie and jeans, carrying a large, reusable grocery bag in one hand and a small backpack in the other. He knocked once and waited. Rachel opened the door, already smiling. "She's in the back room with the other 2. They're working on homework." "She doing okay?" "Better than okay. She's blooming, quietly, but it's there." Patrick stepped inside and handed her the backpack. "Some supplies, not just for her. Enough for all 3. Rachel took it. "You don't need to keep showing up like this, you know." "I do," he said, without hesitation. He found Zoe hunched over a worksheet, pencil in hand, tongue pressed against her lip in concentration. Nia was beside her, coloring. Ty was tracing letters slowly, carefully. They didn't notice him at first. Then Zoe looked up. Her expression didn't change. But she stood up, walked over, and punched him lightly in the arm. "You said Tuesday." "I meant it." She didn't smile, but her voice had a new rhythm. Calmer, settled. "You brought food?" "I brought stuff you can keep. Fruit, snacks, even one of those cereal boxes with the games on the back." Zoe raised an eyebrow. "The good kind?" "The good kind." She took the bag and placed it on the floor beside Rachel's desk without another word. "You in school yet?" he asked. "Next week. They had to wait on something." "You nervous?" She hesitated. "A little. But Ty and Nia go too, right?" Rachel nodded from the corner. "All 3, same district, same transportation." Patrick crouched beside the table. "What do you want to be, Zoe?" She blinked. "Like, when I grow up?" "Yeah. No one ever asked me that before." "Well, I'm asking." She sat down and thought about it. "I used to want to be a singer, but I think maybe I want to help kids." "Like Rachel?" "Not like a social worker," she said. "I mean really help. Like, stop this from happening to other kids." Patrick nodded slowly. "That's a big job." "I'm not scared of big." He smiled. "I know." Rachel appeared with a clipboard, handed it to Zoe. "Final school papers. You'll need a guardian signature." Zoe frowned. "We don't have that." Patrick stood up. "Let me." Rachel paused. "You sure?" Zoe watched him, jaw tight. Patrick didn't hesitate. "I'll sponsor her. Whatever that takes legally, financially. I'll do it." Zoe's face didn't show joy. Not immediately. She stared at the paper, then at him. "You don't have to do this." "I know," he said. She took the pen from Rachel's hand and placed it in his. "Then do it." He signed, and in that moment, something in her cracked open. Not broken, not weak, just open. Her arms wrapped around his waist, tight and quick. Then she stepped back, embarrassed, and pretended it hadn't happened. "Don't make it weird," she said. "I won't." That night, Patrick went home and did something he hadn't done in months. He slept without waking up in the middle of the night. The following week, Zoe started school. The night before, Patrick visited again. She was packing her bag carefully, folding every item like it mattered. Ty had drawn her a small picture, 3 stick figures holding hands, standing next to a big heart. She tucked it inside her notebook without a word. "Do I look like a kid who goes to school?" she asked. "You look like a warrior in a uniform," he replied. She rolled her eyes. "Cheesy." He knelt beside her. "You're allowed to be nervous. I'm not. You're allowed to be that, too." Zoe was quiet, then whispered, "Promise me you won't disappear." "I promise." The next morning, she boarded the bus with Ty and Nia. Patrick watched from a distance. No photographers, no PR stunts, just him and Rachel standing on the sidewalk. "She still doesn't trust it," Rachel said. "She's waiting for it to fall apart." "Then I won't let it." Later that week, a journalist contacted Patrick's team. Word had leaked. Someone from the diner, maybe, or someone who recognized his truck near the shelter. The outlet wanted a story, an inspirational piece. Patrick declined, but the story came out anyway. A blurry photo of him and Zoe, grainy and half-obscured, with a headline that spun a version far from the truth. He called Rachel immediately. "She's going to see it," he said. "She already has," Rachel replied, "and she's pissed." He drove there within the hour. Zoe was sitting on the front steps of the shelter, arms crossed, phone in her lap. "You said no cameras." "I meant it." "Then how did they get that photo?" "I don't know." "But I'm sorry." She stood, eyes wet. "I'm not a project. I'm not your redemption story." "I know," he said, voice quiet. "I'm not some charity for you to feel good about." "I know." Zoe stared at him. "Then why are you still here?" "Because I care. Not because you're a headline, not because I need to fix something, just because I care." She looked away. "Everyone leaves." "I'm not everyone." She didn't speak. He sat down beside her. They stayed like that for a while, 2 figures on a step, saying nothing. Then she broke the silence. "Promise me something. Anything. If I screw up, if I push you away, if I say dumb things, don't quit." "I won't. Even if I mess up?" "Especially then." Zoe nodded slowly. "Okay." That was the moment the shift became permanent. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. The cameras might have caught a headline, but what they missed, what they never would understand, was what Patrick did when no one was looking. The weather had shifted. Not colder, not warmer, just different. Like the season was trying to change, but didn't know how. It had been 4 weeks since Zoe started school. 4 weeks of routine. Backpacks hung on hooks, worksheets on the fridge, bus rides, lunchboxes, sleepless nights that slowly grew shorter, laughter that didn't sound so careful, and something else. Something Rachel called stability. Not perfection, not safety, not yet, but enough. Patrick had stayed close. He didn't hover. He didn't visit every day, but he called. Showed up on Tuesdays. Sat in the hallway of the shelter doing nothing, just so they'd know he was still there. On one of those visits, Rachel pulled him aside. "She wrote something," she said, handing him a folded piece of paper. "What is it?" "An assignment from school. Write about someone who changed your life." "She didn't put your name." "But you'll know." Patrick unfolded the paper. It wasn't neat. Zoe's handwriting leaned slightly left. Some words were misspelled, but the voice was clear. "Didn't fix me. He didn't rescue me. He saw me. And he didn't leave. I don't think I ever trusted anyone before him. I don't know if I do now, but if I ever do, it'll be because he stayed." Patrick didn't cry, but his hands shook slightly when he folded it back. He asked Rachel if he could keep it. That Saturday, something rare happened. Zoe invited him to walk her home from the park. No cameras, no handlers, just them. She had just finished playing a pickup game of basketball with a few kids from school. Ty and Nia sat on the curb, passing a juice box back and forth. Zoe walked beside Patrick with confident steps, dribbling a worn ball as she spoke. "Coach says I'm fast," she said, "but I need to work on my defense." "You listen to your coach?" "Sometimes." They passed a row of shops. A man sat playing harmonica on a milk crate. Zoe dropped 2 quarters into his hat without saying a word. "You always do that?" Patrick asked. "Only when they don't ask." They turned a corner and passed the diner where they first met. The waitress was outside on break, smoking. She saw them, then nodded once toward Zoe. "You're looking good, kid." Zoe didn't smile, but she gave a small wave. "Thanks." Patrick waited until they were out of earshot. "You remember that day?" "I remember everything." They reached the shelter. Zoe stopped at the gate. "You still coming next Tuesday?" she asked. "Unless you tell me not to." She looked at him. "I might." He smiled. "I'll come anyway." She leaned against the gate. "Rachel says maybe I'll move to a real place soon, with beds and a table and a cat, maybe." "You like cats?" "Not really, but Ty does." Patrick nodded. "I can help with that." Zoe's voice dropped to a softer tone. "I'm not used to people meaning what they say." "I know. I want to believe it's real." "It is." She looked up at him now. Not just as the man who fed her pancakes, not just the man from TV, but someone who had become part of her world in a way that couldn't be reversed. "Then don't stop showing up," she said. "Even when it gets messy." "I won't." She reached into her backpack and pulled out something folded, handed it to him. It was a picture, crayon on printer paper. 3 kids, a woman with glasses, a man in a hoodie with curly hair, a son in the corner. "Is that me?" he asked, pointing. Zoe shrugged. "I didn't draw the hair right." He laughed. "I'll survive." She opened the gate, walked 2 steps, then turned. "You didn't just feed me, Patrick." He tilted his head. "No? You made me feel like I wasn't invisible." Then she walked inside. Patrick stood there for a moment longer, holding the drawing like it was glass. That night, he sat in his truck for a long time before going home. He didn't turn the engine, didn't check his phone. He just sat there, holding the picture, thinking about what she'd said. And for the first time in months, maybe years, he didn't feel like a public figure trying to do good. He felt like a man who had shown up for someone who needed him. No cameras, no game, just a promise kept. A week later, a letter arrived at the Kansas City Foundation office, addressed in careful block letters. "Dear Mr. Patrick, I start at my new school next week. We get desks and folders, and I don't have to carry all my stuff anymore. Thank you for pancakes and for coming back. I still don't trust grown-ups, but I trust you a little. That's a lot." There was no signature, just a drawing of a small girl walking home, holding hands with 2 younger kids, the son in the corner. Patrick framed it, and when people asked what his greatest accomplishment was, he didn't mention records, rings, or awards. He just said, "Showing up," and meant it.